I'm known throughout the industry as somebody that's really integrated in technology, and I've consulted for a number of different companies over the years that are trying to make their way into baseball from a tech perspective. And it's certainly, I analyze a lot of metrics and technology when I'm in a professional job. But we do this here at the facility too. So breaking it down bare bones and being very simple, because you can get very complex with technology, and I certainly do, and that's not what I'm trying to spread the information to the player, but it's for my own knowledge. What do I need to do to most efficiently attack this player in the least amount of time? But if I'm at home, like what are some simple metrics that you can use at home and that I would find value in? And I think the easiest one to do is some sort of bat sensor. I use Blast here at the facility, and it's one that I feel like is very simple and works really well. And you'd be surprised about what you think I would value, because ultimately, and there's no disputing this, the highest paid players in the game today have the highest exit velocity. That's indisputable. Therefore, there has to be some sort of level of bat speed that can provide higher end exit velocity. So is bat speed important? Absolutely. But what I deal with on an everyday level with professional players generally is an adequate level of bat speed already. They're drafted for that reason. You know, they're upper echelon, and we've kind of filtered out players that are less talented below them. Now, there's not to say that there's professional players that aren't elite in bat speed, but that's not something I chase as a hitting instructor. That's something that has to be built for me in the weight room. So bat speed is one that I don't value as much as I do a lot of other metrics that are going to determine, are you a good hitter? Yeah, we'd like you to hit the ball really hard, but I'm not going to sacrifice quality of contact. That's always going to reign for me. Number one, quality of contact before the guy that can really light up an exit velocity chart but doesn't do it frequent enough to be a really good, effective player. So when I start thinking about bat speed, I have found players here that I've had that at the high school level that have higher bat speeds than what major league players have. And we'll have, we have hit tracks in our facility, and we'll have guys with blast sensors. And I'll joke, I have a high school player that comes in and they're swinging the bat like 80 miles an hour on a blast sensor. That's a really high number. If you're over 80, like you're swinging the bat really fast. And I'll have professional major league players that are 69 to 72. And even the elite exit velocities from some of these high school players, like with aluminum bat, of course, they can generate as much exit velocity as your average major league player. They just don't do it as often. So how can I get back to that quality of contact that I feel like reigns supreme? And so there's some other metrics that are going to determine the consistency of path, the consistency in plane, and ultimately how big my hitting window is going to be. So if the hitting window is bigger, I have more chances for solid contact through the zone. So a really high-end bat speed with a compensated path or plane is going to be very inconsistent. They're going to light it up once in a while, but they're going to fail and have a lot of swing and miss in them. So what are some of these metrics that I do value? One, time to impact. If it takes me forever to get up to full speed, then the exit velocity and bat speeds that you can produce are really moot, for the fact that I just can't get to the ball in that short enough window that the ball is traveling to home plate, and that 0.4 seconds on a fastball or less. So if it's taken me, and generally the number is 0.15 is what I'm looking for and below. If you're getting into that 0.17, 0.18 time to contact range, you're going to be suffering at some point of just not having adjustability between pitches. I'm going to have to sit on one pitch or another, cheating to a fastball because it takes me so long to get my swing off. Attack angle is really important. I would consider attack angle a really efficient number that will determine how the ball is coming off the bat, either high, either low. And we're looking for exit velocities depending on how big your launch angles, depending on how big your exit velocity is. If I have somebody with less exit velocity, I want them to stay on a lower line drive, flat trajectory. So we're talking 8 to 12 degrees is just fine. Let's hit those one hops through the infield. If I'm a higher end exit velocity guy, then we want to be in the 15 to 35 range. I want to be driving the ball over the outfielders' heads. But your attack angle plays a lot into that. Now, attack angle, we want to be positive by the time that we make contact. There's always going to be a downward portion of the swing that always exists in first move. But if that downward portion of the swing is too pronounced, which would be a push pattern, it'd be something I would consider steep. Those players that back the ball up more in the hitting zone and have that steep path are just going to be pounding the ball into the ground. There's just not much value in those type of hits. Same on the other side. If I'm catching the ball out in front, the bat will have turned under the ball, and that's going to be a positive attack angle. So there's no doubt that the most production value is going to be well out in front of home plate. If I'm catching the ball deeper than home plate, production is going to be stymied somewhat just because the trajectory of the ball is going to be lower because attack angles are going to be in a more negative position. So the steeper that the player's swing is, the more I have to catch it out in front to have valuable contact. Now you can overdo that too. You know, you see players in the big leagues that have high swing and miss and high slug, strike out a lot. They can get excessive in their launch angle. So they're dumping the barrel early and getting positive way too early. Those are the guys that get exposed by velocity up in the zone. So we're trying to meet in that happy medium. What I'm looking for there again is like 8 to 10 degrees as a positive attack angle at contact. But keeping in mind that attack angle is ever changing. It's an arc. So don't be surprised if you see closer to a 0 or negative number if you catch it deep, and a much higher attack angle, maybe 16 to 18 if you catch it well out in front. So contact point will play a big role in that. Another few that I really value on the blast sensor are what's called early connection and connection at impact. And that's going to tell me how efficient is your first move. Is it on plane to the ball? Is it under plane to the ball? And we're looking at something close to 90 degrees on early connection. If I get greater than that, that's usually what I call a pump and dump. That's the barrel getting vertical or outside of it and then slamming back into a barrel dump. That's taught by some people for some reason in our industry, but that is something that you'd see 110 degree early connection. And when that happens, generally they go, oh, you think a higher number is better. In this case, it's not, because you're going to have a rebound effect of losing the barrel. Connection to impact. So this is telling the story of the arc of the swing. I'm looking for 90 at early connection, 90 at connection of impact. This is going to determine how much wrist manipulation I have in the swing. So if I'm catching a lot of wrist manipulation, that number is going to be impacted and tells me my hitting window. I'm dumping the barrel, I'm losing the barrel, I'm having to wrist manipulate to get back to contact, so you're going to have a ton of rollovers over that swing. You can start to link those two metrics together, and that's a little more difficult because it requires higher analysis skills, but I can start to determine how quality was my arc of the swing, and that will determine how big of a hitting window you were in. So really what it comes down to for me, attack angle, time to impact, really important, bat speed less or so, and then you can really get a deep dive into early connection and connection at impact, and those are some metrics that become very valuable in telling the story of the swing.